With the Judgment games being ported over to PC about 2 months ago, I, alongside many Yakuza fans, got to experience this game for the first time. These games have gotten a lot of praise throughout the years from both the hardcore Yakuza fans and newcomers to the series. And I will say straight up that I was not disappointed. This was hands down one of the most fun games I have played in a long time. RGG Studios have become really familiar with the Dragon engine, as the gameplay was a lot less janky and more defined compared to the games with Kiryu. The new cast of characters was a good breath of fresh air. I enjoyed the game so much I decided to go out of my way to 100% it, and I'd like to share some of my experience in the hopes that it could help somebody out there. I will say that this is the remastered version of Judgment, the PC and PS5 version. There are slightly different completionist criteria between the remastered version and the original PS4 one, but I'll mention it when it's relevant. There's no point in dragging this intro out any longer, let's just get right into the sauce. And for the two people wondering, yes, I did reuse the intro for my Judgment negative reviews video. I don't want to spoil the game, but essentially you get an achievement for every 2 chapters you complete. I got my first achievement 32 minutes into the run, which I unfortunately didn't capture the achievement pop-up, because my recording settings weren't properly set up. I got the second story achievement at 7 hours 6 minutes. Yes, it took me that long, I'll get to it later. Achievement number 3 at 16 hours 42 minutes. Number 4 at 22:53. Number 5 at 27. Number 6 at 28:54. Hey, snap out of it. Number 7 at 30 hours and 29 minutes. And the last one, for completing the main story itself, 33 hours and 24 minutes in. At the end of the story, I had 8 achievements within 33 hours and 24 minutes. That's only 17% of the game complete. So what the hell did I do in that time? Fortunately, those aren't the only achievements I got during the story playthrough. For the first playthrough, I used this guide to get all the missable story achievements. I'll leave a link in the description if you want more information. Don't worry if you miss these in your first playthrough though. As to get to Platinum, this game requires 2 separate playthroughs. These achievements are very small and very specific, which can make them a bit hard to get if you're playing the game blind. But like I said 5 seconds ago, you can just get them in your second playthrough. Examples of these missable achievements are sexually harassing a nurse, gambling in an underground casino, talking to a girl without being socially awkward, clicking the like and subscribe button for this video, and taking pictures of a dozen cats throughout the main story chapters. With the missable story achievements completed, we now have 15 out of 47 achievements. But throughout the first playthrough, you're also going to get a bunch of other achievements, even if you're just playing through the game casually. Achievements like Kamarogo Shopper, Trendsetter, and Socialite, where you just have to complete a menu inside of a restaurant, resulting in 18 total achievements. I got all these completed naturally just by playing the game through story mode, and cleaning up a little bit towards the end. There's a skill called Bottomless Stomach, which lets you eat any item you want, even with full health. So if you want to get this achievement a little bit quicker, you could invest your points for that skill. I didn't need to use the skill at all though. Achievements like Kamarugo Tourist, Local, and Guide are in the same boat pretty much. To get these achievements, you basically have to fight enemies, use heat actions, extracts, and play minigames to complete this one. Again, you'll be filling these out naturally as you play through the game. There are 3 achievements for the skill tree as well. One for obtaining 30 skills, 60 skills, and eventually all of the skills. While you can get all skills at any point, there are a few items that are missable in the main story that give you the ability to learn certain skills. And if you miss those items, you're going to have to pay extra to get them later on in the game. So I recommend to use a guide for the skill books and to get them, since it could save you about half an hour of grinding. These achievements basically require you to get 100% completion, but for the sake of narration, it makes sense to put this here, since I got 1 to 2 achievements in each of the categories here. You may have noticed that the time between some chapters was really large. For example, the second and third story achievements are 9.5 hours apart from each other. This is because I was doing some of the side content. I did quite a few friendships and side cases before finishing the main story. The game unfortunately forces you to do a few of these for the campaign, which can make the game longer for what feels like no reason, but to pad out the playtime. Fortunately, for completionists like me, it made it so that the game didn't feel as draining when I was on my journey to complete them all. There are 50 friendships in the game, and completing the friendship tasks are quite easy and non-trivial. Most of these missions either require you to buy a set amount of items, order food at a restaurant, beat up baddies, and playing different minigames. But there were a few that had some special requirements. For example, you had to scan 50 different QR codes throughout Kamurocho to unlock all of the drone parts, which fully completed one friendship, while also giving me the gear I need for some other parts of the games. Some friendships are also locked behind the story, other friendships, or side cases. There are 3 friendship achievements, one for getting 10 friends, 30 friends, and all friendships completed. I completed 27 friendships during my first playthrough, and then started to complete a few of them here and there in the post-game. Counting the time that it took me to complete all these friendships, I would have to add 5.5 hours, leaving with 38 hours and 54 minutes. Some of these friendships require me to play a few minigames, or for me to grind some money to buy items, which would also help in getting some of the other achievements. The biggest time sink was getting the 50 QR codes for the drone friendship, taking about 45 minutes. I used a map guide to tell me where all the QR codes were, and while there are a few other QR codes unrelated to this friendship, they are needed for 100% completion, mainly in unlocking extra skills. As Yagami's main job is to be a detective, there are 50 side cases for him to solve, and again, like with all the other achievements so far, they come in sets of 3. One for 10 side cases, one for 30, and a third for solving all of them. As the name implies, they're just extra cases Yagami can take on without completing the main story. Unfortunately, the game forces you to complete 9 out of the 50 throughout the campaign, but the other 41 are optional, as the name implies. Some cases require story progression to become available, while others require you to have a certain amount of friendships. Once you accept a side case, you can complete it pretty much at any point, with them taking about 20 minutes on average to complete. They are a good way to take a small break from the story. While this was one of the most time-consuming parts of 100% in the game, there isn't really much to say. You also get an achievement for beating the very last side case, the hidden boss with Amon. I wasn't having any of it and I just switched to easy mode, so we can add an extra 10 minutes and another achievement to the counter. After completing certain side cases, you get the option to start chatting up the girls, resulting in 4 possible options for girlfriend. You exchange texts with a girl, and after a while you agree to go on a date. Repeat this process 5 times and bam, you have yourself a girlfriend. Do this with the 3 remaining girls and you have all 4 girlfriends. There are 3 total achievements for girlfriend hunting, giving you 34 out of 47. Fully completing the girlfriend storyline, excluding the idle time in between, took me about an hour or so, with a few girlfriends taking a bit longer than the others. The dates involve you giving questions and answers. Just look up guides for the right answers. Choosing the wrong ones may result in you having to repeat dates, which would just take a load of time. Also, strangely enough, you get punished for rejecting girls. You'll never see them again. But if you accept their love, then you can go on as many dates as you like. One of the girls that you date explicitly talks about how she was cheated on, and how she had a really hard time opening up to men, and how she wasn't in a relationship for over a decade because of it. Anyway, rant over. With these 4 girlfriends, we can add 4 hours and 40 minutes to the counter. I'm playing the remastered version of Judgment, which means that the PS4 and PS5 versions are slightly different from each other. While this mostly boils down to better graphics and cutscenes, some of the minigames were switched out. Puyo Puyo and Pinball Parlor were taken out and replaced with Outrun and Virtua Fighter 2. On this screen you should have the timestamps of when I talk about certain minigames, so if you're not interested in the other ones, so you can skip ahead to whichever one you need help with. I'll just let you know that some minigames can give you items that will make the rest of the game a tad easier. The batting center is a classic in the Yakuza games, appearing in pretty much every game in some form. The mechanics of the game are quite simple. You have a 3x3 grid layout, and you have to line up your cursor with where the ball is going to land, and to time the hit with when the outer circle reaches the red circle. With 18 batting courses required to fully complete the minigame, this can take up quite a bit of time. The 18 courses are divided into 2 different categories, the home run courses and the challenge courses. The home run courses require you to get as many home runs as you can in 10 pitches, while the challenge course requires you to get as many runs as you can within 10 pitches. Inside of the batting center, if you go to the sidelines on the right, you can start a friendship with a fellow named Hatano. After seeing you play for a bit, he will sell you a golden glove and a golden bat, which makes hitting the pitches much easier. After beating all the courses, you unlock the 2 Hell courses. After beating the Hell challenge course, you unlock a skill book, Bat Appropriation, and being the home run equivalent will give you the first free pass out of 6 for the Paradise VR game, which I'll talk about later. Fully completing the batting course took me about 55 minutes. The arcade machine for Outrun can be found in Yagami's room. The completionist requirements for this are quite simple. Play the game 10 times and to get a score of 2 million points. The only way to get 2 million points is just to go in high acceleration and to avoid the traffic. Look at the road signs so you know when to turn. In my run, I ended up crashing a few times, but still got a much higher score than what the game requires you to do. For the 10 games, you can just exit once you have control of your car, as that counts towards the game being played. This took me 9 minutes to complete. Let's take a look at all the minigames in the Sega Arcade by Yagami Detectives Agency. For Fantasy Zone, you just have to get 50,000 points. Since in Yakuza 0, you need twice the amount of completion, this is much easier to do. When you hold down the right trigger, or the R2 button, you get a turbo fire, meaning that you don't have to mash the shoe button like I did. Just be careful not to get hit, since a single bullet will kill you. Thankfully you have 3 lives so you have some room for error. We can add 8 minutes to the timer. Fighting Vipers is one of the many fighting arcade games in Judgment. I just picked Band and tried to combo lock the CPU. Thankfully for this game, you don't need to beat the final boss to complete it. After a few failures, I was able to beat this in 15 minutes. Virtua Fighter 2 is another fighting game. There are 2 different arcade versions for this game, Virtua Fighter 2 and 2.1. I don't think they make too much of a difference, but I just ended up using the 2.1 machine for my runs. I picked Jeffrey and I started spamming the L2 or the LT button, and I just hope for the best. To complete VF2 though, you do have to fight the final boss, but then again, I just ended up spamming LT and it seemed to work out just fine. 22 minutes. Virtua Fighter 5 is the same as Virtua Fighter 2 pretty much. I use Vanessa and try to combo lock the opponent, is that you can't use the continues on final boss, meaning that you have to replay from the beginning if you fail. This game does require you to play as each character, and to win a total of 30 matches, so even if you fail once or twice, you're not really losing out on time. You have to complete a fight with each character, otherwise it won't count as you picking them for the completionist list. This took quite a bit longer than I thought it would, clocking in at 44 minutes. The Sega Arcade in Theater Square has different games than the one in Nakamichi Street. One of them being UFO Catcher. UFO Catcher is the bane of my existence. Thankfully, the requirements in Judgment are quite easily, just getting 15 prizes. And they can be duplicate prizes as well. I've spent more time than I like to admit though. It's a bit embarrassing to say out loud, you can just do the math yourself. The arts is simple enough, just play each of the game modes at least once, and to score at least one low ton, a high ton, a ton 80, 3 in a bed, hat trick, and a white horse. You can save some time if you play these while going on dates while completing the girlfriend quests. Saying girlfriend quest sounds so weird. That's such weird phrasing. Anyway, it took me about 12 minutes to complete. Motor Raid is a racing arcade game. You complete it by doing a practice run on each stage and by fully completing a Grand Prix. I ended up playing with the first character. In this game you can attack other riders. It won't eliminate them from the race, but it will help you in getting the first place in each race. This took me about 23 minutes to fully complete. Space Harrier took me 3 attempts to get the required score of 2 million. Just shoot at anything and trying to crash into stuff. 11 minutes. Camarilla of the Dead is a last arcade minigame. It's an on-rail zombie apocalypse shooter. While the completionist requirements for it are quite easily, complete the story, kill 500 zombies. Getting to 500 kills took some time though, and it took me about 40 minutes to get all the requirements for 100%. But there's an extra achievement to get here. Zombie Apocalypse Survivor requires you to get 50 pickups during Camarilla of the Dead. The pickups are small barrels and crates that you can shoot throughout the levels. The fastest way to grind them was to reset the 4th stage and to collect the 2 near the beginning. The extra grind took me about 20 minutes. But it was mainly due to me having to exit the stage and load it back up, along with me just not paying as much attention as I should have. With this being the last arcade game, we also get the Gamer Life achievement. There are 2 Shogi game modes in Judgment, Puzzle Shogi and Outdoor Shogi. Outdoor Shogi is the more traditional way to play Shogi, while Puzzle Shogi makes you solve Shogi puzzles. Who would have guessed? Puzzle Shogi can be found in the sewers, and you can just look up the solutions to the 10 Shogi puzzles. This took me about 6 minutes to complete. But unlocking Shogi puzzle is the annoying part though. You need to have a completed friendship with the doctor in the sewers. Then, you have to use a quick starter app to fund the artisanal Shogi board, which you then take to the homeless people at the children's park. Outdoor Shogi can be played at any point, although it changes locations depending on the time of day. If you don't know how to play Shogi, you can use the Basics of Shogi book, which you can buy with your skill points in the sewers. This book tells you which moves to make, basically guaranteeing you a win if you're patient enough to wait a few moments to let the computer think for you. This one took quite a while, clocking in at an hour and 25 minutes. Speaking of the shop in the sewer, you can buy the second free pass there for a hefty price of 4,500 skill points, leaving us with 2 out of the 6 passes collected so far. In the underground casino, Le Mans, you can play 2 games, blackjack and poker, and you have to get 30,000 points in each game for full completion. To save a bit of money and time, you can use the Royal Joker card to get a few thousand ships in either minigame. What you can also do is save before playing, go all in, and if you fail, just reload the previous save file. Using the strategies I've mentioned a few seconds ago, I was able to get the 30k point requirement in an hour and 22 minutes. Blackjack is a much nicer game, since you can bet more the bigger your win streak is. Don't get too greedy though, because one loss and you lose all the profits you've gained. But luck was on my side. In just 4 minutes, I was able to get over 20,000 points. Surely it won't take me too long to get the last 10k. Surely! So after 34 minutes, I got the 10k for blackjack. When finishing up with the gambling, make sure to go to the bar and buy the 3rd free pass. For Koi Koi, you only need to get 10,000 wood tags to complete the mission. While there are cheat items for Koi Koi, I didn't really need them. I played on one of the higher difficulties and set the bet to the largest that I could. If something went wrong, I would just save abuse. If you have a second screen, just Google Koi Koi winning hands and try to match what they have. The game also lets you see which hands are no longer available to you. Getting that kind of play saved me a lot of times. I only had to spend 20 minutes here. Also, in Koi Koi, for some reason, you can just quit the game and your chips won't be taken if you're fast enough. Ocho Kabu, basically just make sure that your cards are as close to 9 as possible. I would usually play on the highest difficulty, since that's where the most money is made. I would quit after 1 round and save abuse. You can use cheat items here, but I decided not to. I got to 10,000 tags after 17 minutes. Make sure to buy the 2 free passes available inside of the Dragon Den shops. Lullaby and modern Mahjong parlors both use the traditional Richu rule set, used in the other Yakuza games. Lullaby Mahjong has the easy and medium tables, while the modern parlor has the hard and very hard ones. Lullaby Mahjong was quite quick because of the low difficulty. I could make mistakes and still go out relatively easily. I've only recorded about 40 minutes of gameplay, but it actually took me about an hour and a half to complete all of it. Modern Mahjong, on the other hand though, I swear this thing is rigged. Most of the time, difficulty doesn't mean that the bots are better or worse, but rather that they get much better hands, resulting in them winning very quickly. I've also had so many games where the others were able to go out or start calling Ricci in their first 3 turns. I recorded an hour and 15 minutes, but I got quite unlucky with some of the games, and I spent about 3 hours as a result. As you can guess, there are cheat items, but I didn't use them. I just ended up playing Mahjong. The requirements for both parlors is to go out 10 times each, along with winning 1 game at each table. In Tachibana Parlor, which you unlock after beating a table in Lullaby Mahjong, you play Warame Mahjong, a different rule set from the traditional Ricci Mahjong used in the other Yakuza games. You can play it the same way though. To be honest, I don't know any of the rules. I just kind of played as I usually would, and with enough time and some luck I was able to get by. But instead of getting 10 go-outs, you have to get 30 here. You also have to beat all the difficulty tables as well, which there are 3 of, along with going out with Open Ricci 5 times. For going out in Open Ricci, I just ended up using the easiest table, so I'm not quite sure what Open Ricci entails, because again, I was too lazy to read the rules. I recorded 3.5 hours of Warame Mahjong. I didn't record each game I played. I just spent short of 6 hours on this. It could have been a bit faster if I bothered to read the rules, but I was too invested in the CSGO tournament that was going on at the time. Here's some general Mahjong tips as well. Earning Mangans, Ricci Ipatsus, and Hanamans happened naturally as I was going for the 50 go-outs. The only one I had trouble with was the tricolor straight, since that one requires you to get the same set across 3 different tile types. I had a few close calls where I just couldn't get the last one needed. That's just the way it is with Mahjong. You need a lot of patience for this game. If you're wondering how to learn Mahjong, what I ended up doing is playing against the higher difficulty bots, and I just took a picture of their winning hands. In the description, and only in the description, I'm going to leave a link to a Google Drive doc with 50 or so pictures of Mahjong winning hands. The screenshots are from when I first started playing Mahjong though, which is why most of them are from Yakuza 0 or Kiwami. I recommend to make your own folder, since it will probably be easier for you to remember if you do it yourself. The Drone League is basically a racing league for drones. You can customize your drones and race in the League Cup. You can beat the 5 leagues and time trials quite easily in the remastered version of Judgment. You can buy item blueprints in the sewers, and other materials in the Dragon Den, the place where you play Ochukaibu and Kokoi. It'll cost a lot of money, but you get a beast of a drone that will let you win the leagues and time trials really easily. It took me an hour and 40 minutes to get the Drone Champ achievement, which is to get first place in each league. To grind out the remaining time trials, it took me an extra 30 minutes. The Drone Lab is where you can buy extra parts for your drone for customization. You have to buy every single part, and you even get an achievement for it. And since we were talking about the drone, there are 2 more achievements for it. One is for navigating in first person for a minute straight, and the one where you have to fly the drone around for an entire hour. The times during the Drone League do not count, so I basically had to go AFK for an entire hour just to get this achievement. I imagine a few people asking, how the hell did you get the money for this? Not even for the Drone Lab, but for the game in general. The answer to this is the Dice and Cube minigame in Paradise VR. This minigame has its own requirements for completion, like throwing a dice 100 times, or running into the King Koro-chan 10 times. You even get an achievement for playing the 6 different level layouts. If you play in the long courses, you'll get millions of yen in one playthrough, so you can quickly rack up money. While getting all the requirements for 100% completion only took me about 2 hours, I had to play this game for much more. You can also get some skill books that can only be found in safes in the minigames. But be very careful. If you lose a game after completing the skill book, you'll end up locking yourself out of 100% completion, as you lose almost everything you got during the game, and the book doesn't respawn. In my opinion, this is the worst part about completing Judgment 100%, since this minigame was very boring, and it made my computer lag really badly when I was trying to record gameplay for it. There are some other achievements I can get within a few minutes. Pawn Sale requires you to sell 100 items. Retail Therapy requires you to buy 100 items for retail shops. Dan Koijite, I spelled that very weird. Donkey doesn't count, as when I was going for the Pawn Sale achievement, the cat food I bought her didn't count for this one here. For the Pay or Rent Yagami achievement, you need to complete the friendship with your landlord. Afterwards, she will cook you food and put it in your fridge. Eat all of her dishes and you get the achievement. I got this achievement during story mode, since you end up visiting your agency quite a lot. The GA Labs achievement is just one huge time and money sink. You basically need to fund 10 Quickstarter projects that involve building the GA Labs. The next tier unlocks sometime after finishing the previous one. But how long does it take? I'm not quite sure. Sometimes it took 20 minutes, and sometimes it felt like I was waiting for hours. Afterwards, You would have to wait for the project to get solely funded, and once it was at 50%, you could pay for the other half. If you want to get this done quickly, you would have to give up 19,700,000 yen. But like I said, if you wait a long while, you can save half of it. I just recommend starting this quick starter as soon as possible, just so that you can save a fair bit of money. You unlock this quick starter by starting a friendship with a guy named Noboru Tateyama, and he can be found at the entrance of Tenkaichi Street. With all these achievements unlocked, you should unlock the Karugo Master achievement, which is for getting 100% completion on all of the restaurants, minigames, scales, side cases, and everything else, leaving us at 45 out of 47 achievements. So, after getting the 100% completion in the save file, I only have 2 achievements left. The hidden achievement where you beat the game in Legend mode, and the second achievement being unlocked once you unlock all the other trophies. Legend mode is the hardest difficulty in Yakuza games, but like with all the other games, it's quite easy if you're playing a New Game Plus, which basically allows you to take all of your stats and upgrades to the next playthrough. I did get a few game overs though, but that was mostly out of stupidity, or me just not wanting to go to the menus to heal. The big difference between Legend mode and the other difficulties is that there are no checkpoints available, meaning that when you die, you have to reload from your latest save file. The only tip I have for Legend mode is to carry a lot of healing items and to save frequently. Legend mode took me 7 hours and 15 minutes to complete. That's how long it took me to get 100% in Judgment. Anyway, thanks for watching.